The ancient Hebrews referred to the angels as B'nai Elohim, translated to the sons of God. The Bible reveals to us that these angels were present during the creation of the heavens and the earth. The angels who fell into sin by taking the daughters of man unto them as brides would be judged for their wickedness and corruption. These sons of God were adorned in heavenly glory and immortal bodies, but were now reprobate rebel angels. They would suffer the consequences of their sin. Their bodies were corrupted by joining themselves with the woman in their sinful acts. The covenant they made together on Mount Hermon would forever echo in eternity. They could no longer stand in the presence of God. The fate of these actions would be severe. The 4,000-year war between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman would begin. The seed of the fallen angels against the pure genetic seed of God. If the fallen half-breed angelic Nephilim blood was able to pollute the bloodline of God, then there would be no chance for salvation for all of humanity. Jude 6, "And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness, under the judgment of the great day." The offspring brought about wickedness in the earth in those days. Their sinful nature was inherited from the spirit of their fathers who polluted the natural order of things. Their mothers produced in them the nature of the flesh, while their fathers produced in them the spirit of sin. This sinful nature would pass on even to the post-flood Nephilim giants who descended from Canaan's diluted bloodline. Samyaza, the leader of this set of fallen angels, said unto them, "I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall not have to pay the penalty of great sin." And they all answered him and said, "Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abound in this plan, but to do this thing." Then swear they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they came down on Ardis, which is the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called the mountain Hermon, because on it they swore and bound one another with curses. And these are the names of their leaders: Samyaza, Arakaba, Ramiel, Kokabeel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Asael, Amaros, Anael, Zachiel, Samsiel, Satiel, Turiel, Yamiel, Azazel. But Azazel also revealed to the people the secrets of witchcraft and warfare, and he corrupted their manners, leading them into wickedness and impurity, until, at last, he was at the Lord's command bound hand and foot by the archangel Raphael, and chained to the rough and jagged rocks of where he was to abide in darkness until the great day of judgment. The name Rephaim became known as the specific title for the original Nephilim giants who once ruled the pre-flood world. Their identity became legend and would be talked about even after the global flood. The Rephaim all died in the flood, and their bodies were swallowed into the depths of the earth's subterranean water chambers that burst forth during the flood. Their name would become synonymous with the words the dead, Sheol, and abyss. The fountains of the deep is where their bodies went, and this is where Jonah 2 refers to Sheol as being deep under the depths of the ocean, at the roots of the mountains, and in the heart of the earth. Job 26 refers to the Rephaim, or the marine kingdom, of evil spirits when he writes, "Dead things are formed under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof." The original meaning used for dead was Rephaim. The marine kingdom is now a spiritual domain and place in which many evil spirits still operate from. Isaiah 26:14 talks of the Rephaim as having no salvation, and that the Lord wiped them out of existence. The name Nephilim means the fallen, and in Aramaic it refers to giants. As fallen angels and giants were associated with large stature and pride, they were compared to being as tall and arrogant or mighty as cedar trees. This imagery would be carried through to the post-flood era. Amos 2:9 refers to the New World giants, the Amorites, whose height was like that of cedars. The Nephilim threatened the very purity of God's genetic bloodline. Their violence and sin almost annihilated mankind. God was grieved in his heart that he repented, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. Extra-biblical texts talk of them polluting and doing shameful things to animals, which were against the natural order. Legends and myths of giants would litter all cultures of the world. The Greeks would call them the Titans, with heroes like Hercules. The ancient Chinese talk of the legend of Fang Fun, who stood at 10 meters in height and was executed at the orders of the legendary Yu the Great. Fang Fun was also said to be a one-eyed, dragon-headed, ox-eared giant, whereas in Yu the Great was said to be a man of upright moral character. Legend has it that Yu the Great carved channels for the floodwaters to dissipate the lands after the Great Deluge. He drove away and killed dinosaurs that threatened his people. These creatures would be called dragons by the ancient Chinese. He and his family survived the flood, and he is none other than Noah. The flood would be a testament to the power and might of God. The punishment of the pre-flood world was a direct offensive to the works of Satan and the fallen sons of God. Psalm 29:5-7 is a declaration of the power of the Lord and how he destroyed the evil Nephilim cedars and fallen angels, who are referred to as flames of fire. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars, yea, the Lord breaketh the cedars of Lebanon. He maketh them also to skip like a calf, Lebanon and Sirion like a young unicorn. The voice of the Lord divideth the flames of fire. The Nephilim attempted to destroy mankind and pollute the bloodline of the prophesied Messiah. The salvation of all mankind was at stake, but Noah preached to the dying world that needed repentance and salvation through the one who was to come. They laughed, mocked, and ridiculed him. But the day would come when the weight of their sin would shake the foundations of the earth and would consume them in the floodwaters. The ark that protected and preserved Noah was a symbol of the coming spirit in heaven known as the angel of the Lord. The word angel in its original meaning is translated to messenger. Unlike the other created angels of heaven, this spirit was the captain of all the angelic armies. Yet, he would one day take on the form of flesh, being born of a woman, and take on the sins of the world to reconcile man unto himself, like a lamb led to the slaughter. The first supreme emperor was a fallen angel who ruled over the pre-flood world. He rose to prominence and is referred to in Ezekiel 31. This supreme emperor was called the Assyrian. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high, and with rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees in the field. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. Thus was he fair in his greatness, and in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. The cedars in the garden of God could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty. I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied him. This Assyrian ruler was a mighty one who had high stature, and he towered above all the other kings in the pre-flood world. His shadow of authority was over all the other angels and Nephilim and mankind. He had fair branches and boughs, which refers to the many wives and offspring that made up his kingdom. And finally, his roots were by the great waters, attributes his kingdom being mighty and in power because of his strategic location. The Assyrian exceeded all in power, prestige, and prominence. None of the other fallen angelic watchers on the earth could compare or exceed his might. The Assyrian was akin to Satan in his beauty, pride, and power, but his rise would lead to his destruction. Ezekiel 31 talks of all the trees in Eden who envied and despised the Assyrian. The other fallen angels would begin to despise his authority. The first Nephilim World War would begin. I have therefore delivered him unto the hand of the mighty one, of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness. And the strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off, and have left him upon the mountains, and in all the valleys his branches are fallen, and his boughs are broken by all the rivers of the land. And all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow, and have left him. Upon his ruin shall all the fowls of the heaven remain, and all the beasts of the fields shall be upon his branches. To the ends that none of all the trees by the waters exalt themselves for their height, neither shoot up their top among the thick boughs, neither their trees stand up in their height. All that drink water, for they are all delivered unto death to the nether parts of the earth. In the midst of the children of men, with them that go down to the pit of rivers, of the land, and all the people and the earth are gone down from his shadow, and have left him. Ezekiel 31. The fallen angelic Nephilim kingdoms waged war on the Assyrian. The Assyrian's kingdom, made up of his many wives and Nephilim army offspring, would be brought to ruin. Genesis 6:10 says that before the great deluge, the earth was filled with violence. The Lord delivered the Assyrian into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen, the prince of this world, Satan. The Assyrian's kingdom was destroyed and defeated. Following the Nephilim World War, the earth would be flooded, pulling all of the fallen angels, their Nephilim offspring, their cities and kingdoms, into the great abyss deep within the earth. It will be here that the great Assyrian will return in the end times. Revelation 9:11 identifies the fallen angelic king over the abyss as Abaddon, or Apollyon, which means destroyer. The 150 days of raging floodwaters is a foreshadowing of the 150 days or 5 months of torment that unbelievers will experience in Revelation 9. Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael are considered by ancient Jewish sources as being the 4 angels standing in attendance at God's throne. Although they are the highest ranking angels in the hierarchy, they also hold the title of being archangels or chief angels. Describes the thrones or Ophanim who are present with the other myriads of angels in the heavenly host. There are several mysterious appearances of a being referred to as the captain of the host and the angel of the Lord. This being is a spirit that exercises special power and authority. Moses encounters this spirit in Exodus 23. Behold, I send an angel before thee, to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Joshua also encountered this being in chapter 5. Now, when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. I have now come as the commander of the Lord's army. Then Joshua fell down in reverence of him and asked him, What does my Lord have to say to his servant? The commander of the Lord's army replied, Take off your sandals, for this place where you are standing is holy. And Joshua did so. The angel of the Lord appears in Daniel chapter 3 when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are thrown in the fiery furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar sees this being who supernaturally protects his people. The king says, Look, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of a 4th is like the Son of God. In the pseudepigraphical Testament of Solomon, many of the demon spirits reveal that they fear and flee at the sound and authority of an angel which has the sum of 644 in his name. I said to him, "Tell me, by what angel thou art frustrated?" And he answered, "By the holy and precious name of the Almighty God, called by the Hebrews by a row of numbers, of which the sum is 644. On one occasion in Judges 13, the angel of the Lord appears to Samson's mother and gives news that she will bear a son, even though she has been barren and unable to conceive. They ask the angel his name so that they can offer thanks, but the angel says, "Why do you want to know my name? For seeing it is wonderful." Jesus is the Messiah. He is the embodiment of the holy seed that was preserved throughout the ages. He is the reason why God was severe and uncompromising when it came to marriage to other nations, and even the sparing of women and children of these giant conquered kingdoms. These polluted genetics could not be allowed to pollute the holy bloodline. The survival of the holy seed and salvation for all of mankind was in jeopardy. If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and believe it in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved.